So we'll keep admitting people, but it's meant to be office hours. So the I don't know how many of you have been on these calls before, but this I'm modeling this after what First Headquarters does. So First Headquarters, every Wednesday afternoon they have office hours, and they have different like breakout rooms because they have different so many topics. And so you can go in, you ask for a room, you go ask your question, you leave, you can go to another room, ask a question. We don't have rooms, you just have me. But the idea is to give you a place every week or other week. I've been traveling for a while, but it's settling down now, to give you a place where that if you can't find an answer to your question, then you have a place to go that you can go either ask me, or if I ask someone else to run the meeting for me, it doesn't matter because you get all these coaches in here and you can sort of throw around ideas and see what people think. I always invite Rich, who's the head ref, and Nancy, who's the head judge, and they'll pop in whenever they can. Rick runs several qualifiers and the state tournament. So this is very interesting for him to listen to what we have to say, because it highlights some potential things that we can do in the future to improve things for everyone. So that is the gist of it. So before I jump into a couple of topics that I'm sort of holding as some things that we can discuss, does anybody have any pressing questions, something you're running into that's a real problem that I will either try to answer now, or I'll get you an answer, or another coach can answer? Nothing? Everybody's registered? Oh, go for it, Beth.
Now that you've raised me another question about being registered, I just have two big questions. One, I still have some questions about the innovation project.
Yep.
And then the second one, the list of places for tournaments came out, and I had a question about, it looks like there's only one in Phoenix. So I had a question about that. So I can wait. I don't need those answers now if again, that's in your agenda today. And I know that wasn't part of today's meeting, but.
And that's, yeah. And so let me find it here. So let me go back. I'm going to put the right link in the chat. So let me go here, make sure this is right. This is what I'm working on, and it's not there, you guys, but it's something, right? So let me go in the chat, and I'm going to add, okay. So this little website is something that's existed for many, many years, but it sort of died a slow death during COVID, and I just didn't have time to rejuvenate it last year. I am slowly bringing it back to life. On here, you have, if you click on it, you'll see on the left that you have under First LEGO League Explore, there's an events, and First LEGO League Challenge, there's an events. If you click on that, right now you'll see what Beth is talking about under the events tab that is under FLL Challenge. You'll see that for one thing, the office hours are here that we're on right now. The Zoom is there. You can see that there's 2 sessions already scheduled for November and December. That's going to be for anybody who judges at either a qualifier or for state. Nancy's going to be running some training. You see my little office hours is there. And then below that, FLL Challenge qualifiers. So these are all the qualifiers that are scheduled. December, there's a scrimmage, which I have nothing to do with a scrimmage, just so you know. Scrimmages are local and are not they are not a qualifying event. You go there to get practice, to see what other people are doing, get your kids used to standing at the table so they learn, right? With now, especially that we have 2 people at one end and 2 people at the other end, how they're not allowed to have human-to-human interaction across the table. The robot has to do it by traveling. So if you want them to practice that, there's a scrimmage. Scrimmages are people who volunteer, put their hand up and say, I'm having a scrimmage. Can you tell people about it? And that's it. That's my involvement. The qualifiers, however, December 2nd, 9th, and 14th, we have 11 qualifiers that are scheduled, and these are the locations. Okay. I have the sign up for coaches it's ready to go for one thing that was bothering me last year, and my perfectionism is getting in the way of me releasing the sign up. And it is that when somebody signs up more than one team, the invoice that's generated by the system will only list the last team. So if you register team number one, team number two, team number three, and you go pay $100, $100, $100, so you pay $300, which is great. You just pay one time, but then the invoice that's generated or the receipt that's generated only says team three, because that's the last one you registered. So I'm working with the people who run these events to try and figure out how to do that. So it's just my perfectionism getting in the way. As soon as I get that figured out, probably in the next couple of days, I will send an email blast, and I'm going to post it probably on right here where it says FLL Challenge qualifiers. I will put it in big bold letters. This is where you register. Just so everyone knows, you can only participate in one official FLL qualifier. You have one shot to qualify for state. So you can only participate in one. Now, Beth, you said, what weekend were you looking at?
Well, my school is in Phoenix, and we have people from all over. And so before, there's been a few, at least two, kind of in Phoenix, Bioscience, Metro Tech, or a few others, and there only seems to be one. And I have 4 teams. And so I wanted to double check, because I don't really want them all to compete against each other. I like to spread it out, but I wanted to double check that this was kind of the final thing, and there's only one in Phoenix.
So this is final, but it's the exact same locations as last year. The only two,
Really?
that's hang on. The one that dropped out was Mark Pond's event dropped out because he retired. So that one was a what is it called, Rick? Mesa
Academy.
Huh.
Yeah, that's the only one that dropped out. We had 2 additional that we did in January that were very small events. But other than that, it's the same events.
Okay.
Yeah, Scottsdale, you have the one at Metro Tech, and you have the one in Chandler that's on December 2nd. I'm just talking about Phoenix right now. Then December 9th, you have Microchip, which is in Chandler again. You have the North Phoenix one that's at Ridgeline, that's run by Pavan. And then December 16th, right now, is the only group of people that have signed up for the 16th is the one that's going to be at MCC Red Mountain.
Okay.
That's what we've got available right now. Now, if anybody's dying to run an event, let me know. We can probably accommodate it. My problem right now is supply of field sets. So December 2nd would be impossible to do unless you can supply your own field sets if you wanted to run an event. We ordered 50, and all of them are going to be used on December 2nd. So, well, that's not true. There's a few in Flagstaff, but they're in Flagstaff, and I don't want to move them. So there, that qualifies. Any other questions about qualifiers? Right?
No, I just want to say, take your time in putting out the list. From my point of view, I need to get my teams together and figure out where everybody lives. So take your time as far as I'm concerned.
I'm really hoping this week, which will still put us a month in advance of when we opened it up last year. So it'll put us way in advance, but I'm really hoping to get it ahead of time, because I'm very understanding of particularly schools that need school permissions and waivers signed by parents or whatever else that it is you need to do, as well as the way it runs in Arizona. I guess it's always run this way, is that all teams pay $100 flat fee to participate in a qualifier, but then it also funds the state tournament for any team that qualifies for that. So and you have to qualify. The state tournament is on this list, and that is an invitational. You have to qualify through one of the qualifiers in order to be invited to come to the state tournament. So
Thank you.
Any questions on that? You'll get an email blast from me hopefully this week. Okay.
Thank you.
What was your other question? You said you had two.
Just about the innovation project when,
Okay, let's talk about that.
yeah.
Let's
So
talk about that. I went to office hours for I've done the last 3 weeks, but the person I wanted to talk to didn't show up till this last week. And I asked her the question, and you know, we read, I should pull up the email I sent her, but basically we read the challenge, I guess, is where it really is listed, right? Where it says, and maybe let me do it this way. Let me get the exact wording so that I don't mislead people. And I'm going to pull up, as a matter of fact, I'm going to pull up Charlie's answer. So what I wrote to her is I said, okay, the innovation project topic is, at the high level, how can you use technology and the arts to help engage others or increase participation in what you love to do? Everyone agree with that statement? Is that something everyone's come across in the challenge, that's kind of at the very top, right? That's what the project is about this year. Then, oh, go ahead. Okay, so then I went to the rubric and I said, okay, the rubric hasn't, by the looks of it, not really changed. And it says, right, I just said to them, I said, okay, so they have to come up with a clearly defined problem, well-researched. They have to have data. They have to be able to show if their solution to the problem can be prototyped. So I said, let's suppose that we choose what is probably a very, very popular interest for the students that we're dealing with, and we'll pick soccer. So that is something that they have, there's something they engage in, something that they participate in. So how would you use technology and the arts to increase engagement in soccer? And I said, I'm at a loss. Like, I just don't know what to do. Does that is that what you guys are facing? Kind of, because that was my problem. Okay, so here's what Charlie said. He said, in the soccer example you provided, the question that you pose is accurate, right? Because I was saying how to use technology in the arts. He said, another way to identify a problem may be to ask, what's preventing people from becoming interested in or participating in soccer? And how can technology and the arts help solve that problem? I'll post this for you guys so you have it verbatim. Then he says, when referencing, and he puts it in quotes, the arts, I would encourage the teams to look at the project. It's called Project Sparks in the engineering notebook for some inspiration. There are multiple fields represented in the guide that help to broaden the definition of arts. Soccer might be more interesting to watch and attract more people if, for example, the ball made a sound or had lights, for example. And I thought, aha, okay, I'm posting all of that in the chat, you guys. It's a long thing, but I'm putting it in there so you guys have it, okay? So I thought, okay, so could you play soccer and there's LEDs on the ball and you hit the ball, and if you hit it, hang on, we have Teresa's joining us. Teresa is the tournament director for Tucson. So could it be that you have different things, like when you hit the ball, kick the ball, that maybe it has different colors depending if you hit it a little bit or if you hit it a lot? Is there a way to use to do something to the ball in such a way that you can put the players through some kind of a drill where, you know, like, I'm not a soccer player. I'm a Ted Lasso fan, but not a soccer player. But if you you do the knee thing when you got the ball, like, could the ball do something where, I don't know, it goes through the alphabet or it says, like, all of a sudden I started thinking, okay, I think I get where they're going with this, right? So you really do make a list of what are the interests and the hobbies that the kids are participating in. And then try to figure out something really sort of crazy and innovative you've never seen before that could bring in an entirely different group of people that might be interested because of it. Here's the other thing that he highlighted, and I think this is in the, he may have just said it, but let me just go back to my email. Okay, he said he wrote this. So I'm gonna, here, I'll do this just so you know, this is coming from headquarters. He says, and remember, as a reminder, the rubric doesn't state that it has to be a huge problem. The solution can be focused on helping a small group become interested in their hobbies. This also might make it a bit easier to help identify the problem. So maybe it's something a little bit different where you say, oh, I don't know, it could be someone with a disability. It could be someone who's older, somewhat. Like I remember last year before we were preparing for one of the qualifiers and we were looking at the gym and there were some elderly people all sitting in folding chairs playing volleyball. It was fabulous, right? They all of them had some kind of sort of physical challenge. I have no idea, minor, major, I have no idea. But what I do know is they were together, they were socializing, they were playing volleyball, and they were talking trash to each other. It was so fun to watch them play. So something like that, where you could say, okay, maybe we want to do something where it could be a sport, it could be arts, it could even be things like, I don't know, needlepoint, and you have trouble seeing what you're doing, or anyway, that opened it up for me. Does that help you? That helps. Okay, go for it.
I have a quick question. In that example of the soccer and then making it lights and sound, to me, that's not using arts at all. So is that okay to not include like arts? Like light and sound would be tech to me.
Let's do, well, but the question does say technology.
Right.
But to me, if you have a ball that makes sound, that's music. That is art. Music is art. Sound is art. No question about it. If it's lighting up, a light show is art. No question about it. So let me do two things. He refers in here to the engineering notebook. And the other thing I wanted to give you guys is, I'll just do it this way. So share, copy link. This is a folder. If you don't have it already, this is a folder, my low tech, soon to be higher tech way of sharing with you guys. We're working on a YouTube channel, but in this folder, there's all the files that were presented at the coaches workshop. And in here, I put a file. It's an Excel spreadsheet called Project Decision Matrix. It is old and I did not edit it on purpose. I didn't edit it because I want you and your students to decide if it's useful for you or not. But it is a spreadsheet that we used many, many, many seasons ago with my FLL team as a way to manage the ideas around the innovation project. Okay, you can tell that the questions on the right side of that spreadsheet are very specific to that season. So if you decide this is useful for you, and judges on the new rubric are very interested in the process that the kids use to choose their project, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. So something like this may be something you very seriously consider. But one of the questions there would be, are we using technology? Like, is this idea, this solution that we have, is it using technology to help people engage in this activity? And are we using the arts? So other than all these other files are available to you, that one is specific to the innovation project. So that's a first thing. The second thing I want to give you guys, and hang on, I have all my tabs ready. I just have to like make myself get to the right place, is I want to go to programs, FLL, resource library, and I want to go to challenge. Does everybody know about the resource library? Do you want me to, I can put that on here. So there's a on the firstinspires.org website, right there, put it in the chat again, is the resource library. So I'm going to go there. I'm going to click on, as a matter of fact, you know what? Let's go all high tech, you guys. Okay, so this is the resource library. I'm going to check here on FLL challenge, just so I reduce the number of results that I get. You can search anything you want, FTC, FRC, whatever works for you, you can do that. And then I'm going to say engineering notebook. And let's see if it brings up anything. Okay, so we go into challenge, updates and resources. That will be this right here. Just about everything you ever wanted to know about masterpieces on this page. Okay. Under guidebooks, there's an engineering notebook. So you can click on that. And let's see if it opens it. Okay. So let's see if we can find this Project Sparks that he was talking about. Challenge stories. Have you guys seen this? I think you get them, right? With your fields and so on. Okay, here we go. So this is where I got the question, right? How can you use technology in the arts to help engage others and increase participation in what you love to do? Blah, blah, blah. So I don't know where it is. If anybody knows where it is, let me know. But see, now we're into robot.
I thought, Elaine, the Project Spark was that story about the skateboard, was that Spark. And that didn't make a lot of sense to me.
Oh.
So maybe that's not what they meant by the Project Spark.
I can ask him. It's in here. So he said in here there was, can we do, we're kind of learning together here, people. Remember when Core Values said
I just found the Project Spark.
Where's that?
It's in the, I think it's where you were, but maybe not. I have it in the challenge overview PDF. So it also has the little comic that you were scrolling on, but then if you go past that, it kind of talks about the different jobs.
Yep. So I just did a search. I don't know if you guys can see that. I just did a search on Project Spark. There's 17 occurrences of it in this document. Show how the models work and explain how they relate to the Project Spark. Project Spark. Museums are places where people learn about art, culture, science, history, and more. Technology is often used to make learning more interesting and engaging. There you go. There's some ideas right there. So I'm just to remind you, I'm in the engineering notebook and I did a Control F and I'm looking for Project Spark and I'm just paging. See here, they've got a Project Spark under Visual Effects Director.
Right, and those were characters that in the skateboarding, the person went to.
Yeah. Okay, I see. Okay, so that's what he was referring to. So that's good. I learned something. So I think art takes a very, very broad definition. I would say this from all. Oh, hang on, we got two people here. We lost Rick. Hang on. Okay. All right. He's back. So I would say that and if you read what I just posted as the answer, and this is it comes from the gentleman who I guess was in charge of designing what the project is this year, right? That he says we're taking a very broad definition of what the arts is. I would say that if you think that your adopted definition of the arts is getting a little towards the edges, I would say address that in your judging session. You don't want to leave it up to the judges to make the connection, right? For two reasons. I can tell you, having judged for many, many, many years, that you don't have time. Like you really have to spoon feed us the information because we see a lot of teams. We get a ton of information in the course of a day. We're trying to take notes. So you really have to spoon feed us the information. And so if you feel like your art connection, I mean, I wouldn't mention it either way, but if you feel it's a little towards the edges, tell the judges the connection you made. It can't hurt you. Okay.
Thank you.
So I would love to hear from other coaches, right? This is why we do it's sort of an open forum like this. I'd love to hear from other coaches on how you have approached it. Has anyone started their project and given everything I just said, you're thinking, yep, we're on the right track? Or is anyone worried? Daniel's smiling. I can see he's like,
I was a little confused, but I feel much better now that I was
do you?
understanding it correctly. Like after you explained it, I'm like, okay, that's what I thought it meant. But
Okay.
especially being a first-time coach, I was like, am I completely not understanding what they're saying?
Okay.
That's good.
Would you mind sharing, Daniel, kind of what your project? You know, you don't have to.
We haven't landed on one, but we read through it kind of as we haven't done a lot of like official team meetings yet. But we read through some of the resources, and that's kind of what we gathered is like a hobby or an interest or something they're passionate about, and how can they use art and technology to kind of get more people to participate and.
So would you agree it's a two-step process this year? One, you have to identify the hobby/interest. And then two, you have to identify what are some of the ways that you can increase participation in that hobby.
Yeah, it's almost like the problem is kind of given to us. It's like, what's the threshold for entry with people participating in that? And like, how can you get more people into it? Like, that's almost the problem. Like, if you're passionate about it, why isn't everybody into it? So it's almost like the question kind of states it, or the problem states itself, and really then you're trying to figure out how more people might be interested and participate in whatever that hobby or sport is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he gave an excellent description of how to think of it, right? Think of an innovative way to just, even if it's not, I mean, you can't change the rules of soccer, but maybe you can change a way to practice, training, coaching, practicing. Maybe it is, you remember, I just thought of this, putt golf. I don't know what mini putt, whatever it is you get. Remember and you can go do they turn the lights off and it's white light and you can glow in the dark balls and all that. It's just that. I think something like that could be something that fits in that category where you've taken an interest that exists and you've just put a twist on it that makes it more engaging for some people. So, okay. Anything else we want to say about the project? Okay, good. I'm really, really hoping this helps free the imagination. The other thing I had on my list is I had a call today with someone who was completely lost, and we ended up doing a one-on-one. And it was great. We spent an hour together, great session. But one of the things I said to her that I said to a lot of people in the past, and I will say it again on this call, is that if you are a new coach and you're looking for a way to train and learn, by far the best way to do it is to judge at a qualifier. By far. So there's several events on December 2nd where you could judge on December 2nd and then have your team participate on the 9th or the 16th. But even if that's not possible, even if you're in a situation where you have to compete on December 2nd and you end up volunteering to judge later on, the experience that you get, I promise you, it'll be the best investment of a Saturday ever if you're going to be coaching FLL. You get to see the process from behind the scenes, and you get to interact with other coaches, other judges, a head judge. You get to see how the kids present from team to team. You'll see the different sort of philosophies that some teams have when they present. Has anyone here judged before for FLL? All right, tell me about your experience. Did you find it useful?
I don't remember the circumstances when I signed up, but I ended up I had coached probably for 3 or 4 seasons, and then we had the state championship, and so that's what I volunteered to do. And so it was really like kind of a level up from where I had kind of been with my students prior. And so I mean, kids would come in and they'd have like a whole skit, and almost like, I don't want to call it a dog and pony show. That sounds like, bad, but I mean, they really had it like pretty polished. I think the thing I really take away though was afterward, now all the judges are sitting together and you're kind of doing this deliberation of like who was kind of that top group. And I mean, that to me was really, really tough because there were just some really, really cool ideas and projects. And so then it kind of got into a thing of like, which kids were still at sort of the theory of their idea and which kids had kind of implemented their idea. There was one team, I don't remember the specifics, but it was something where they like built like a new road or a bridge, like for their school. Like they had actually done it and built it. And so, I mean, the judges were like, wow. I mean, that's like, like it's not on paper anymore. It's not a plan. Like they did it. So, I mean, it was very eye-opening on those kids that end up going, I guess, to the national competition and all that stuff. It was,
yeah, it's very, very, very educational. One of the things I learned was that just about anything goes, right? The teams present in completely different ways, but you very quickly learn that it is important for them to, especially when they're in there for half an hour now, it's a lot to ask of these kids to be in there for a straight 30 minutes versus how we used to do it where they had 3 shorter sessions. Now they have 1 long session. And so the kids come in, they talk about the project, they talk about the robot, and then we talk a little bit about core values and we give them feedback and so on. So they're with us for 30 minutes. It's a lot to ask. So it's really important to practice that. It's important to know what the transitions are. It's important for the kids to know, not to the second, we're not that strict, but they do need to have a 5-minute or less presentation. If they get to 6 minutes or 7 minutes, they're going to get cut off by the judges because we need time to ask questions. And so that's something that does need to be rehearsed. I will say this, we've gotten that, my own team many years ago got a comment from a judge that said overly rehearsed. When they are sitting, and there's no, personality, and there's no, they just weren't that excited about it, I think, because it was overly rehearsed. So we took that and threw it out the window and said, what do you guys want to tell the judges about this? And that's what we ended up taking to the next competition. So there's a fine line in there, but the kids do need to know a little bit what it is to expect. One of the things that I offer teams all the time, if I've got the time to do it, is to offer mock judging. I've done that where I will maybe grab a couple of my student workers who have done FLL before, and as you get closer to an event, we'll do a mock judging session where we put the kids through a judging session, and then instead of doing the sort of official feedback at the end, we give them feedback, but we tell them we go into an area that you would never go at a competition, where we say, okay, this is what you need to think about in your presentation. And we wouldn't go in that kind of detail at a competition, but we do if it's a mock judging that has nothing to do with a competition. And we do that to our teams that are interested in polishing their judging session. And I think it teaches kids about, you don't go into a presentation. Let's say you're, I don't know, you're going to go to the bank and ask for money for your business and you're giving a presentation, right? You prepare, you practice, right? It teaches the kids that that's important. Any questions or comments on that? Rick, do you have any? Is Rick still on here or did he drop again? Okay. Oh, he's here. Any words of wisdom? Because Rick's been doing this for a while too.
I mean, I've never seen it on the coach side, other than when you receive your schedule, make sure that you pay attention to the time of your robot matches and your judging session. Especially, like Elaine said, now that the judging session is 30 minutes, it's nearly impossible to make that up. The tournament director might have like one blank section in there, just the way the number of teams work, but yeah, that's very unlikely.
And we have runners, and we'll go find you if you're not where we think you should be, 10 minutes before your judging session. We'll be running all over the building looking for you.
Yeah.
But I've had instances where we couldn't find the team. And they missed their judging session. So sad. Yeah.
And a lot of tournaments will assign you a table, like in the cafeteria or wherever they have the pits. And that's where the runners will check first. So if you are practicing like off on some random corner, if you have a parent or somebody at your table, knowing where you are and to be able to communicate to you, that helps too. Because sometimes we can't. We're looking, but if you're off to a far corner, you might not know you're there.
All right. Yeah, go for it, Beth.
I just last year, well, let me think. Previous years, we would have, when the judging was separate, we would take boards in for core value board and then a project board. And last year, if I recall, we were, I don't know, I guess discouraged. I don't remember how we came to the conclusion that we did not need a core value board and just brought an innovation project board, but then saw other people with like robot design boards, I think. So is there a suggested number of boards or what the boards are about?
Yes. So it used to be in past years that the core values board was a requirement. It was based on region, but certainly by the time you got to Worlds, you had to have a core values board, and they've done away with that. And there was another one that was called a robot design engineering summary. They've done away with that also. Having said that, the kids are entirely that 5 minutes of innovation project and that 5 minutes of robot design and that 2-minute introduction at the beginning. The way I coach it is, that's your time. You are in charge of that time. So when you come into the room for the first 2 minutes, you can come in and say, hi, and just let the judges jump in. But the judges are going to give you your 2 minutes. So if right, I've seen that at Worlds, where at Worlds a team will come in, they'll just say hi, and we'll say, is there anything you want to tell us in your 2 minutes? No. Okay. We just jump in and off we go, right? But if the kids come in and they utilize that 2 minutes and they come in, my kids used to come in and go, hi, we are Team 207, the Brickmasters, and we have been doing FLL for 3 years. My name's Alexa. I'm a 4th grader, and I'm, I want to grow up to be a whatever, right? And then they go down the line and they utilize the entire 2 minutes to introduce themselves, but also to check boxes of things that are on the rubric. And that's where the coaching comes in. The coach can look through the rubric and say, what can we do in that 2 minutes to check boxes that are important to us? So it could be to say you're all rookies. Last year at Worlds, we had a team where it was short person, short person, short person, tall person, short person. And they walked in and I was like, I don't know what's going on here, but I think there's a story. And sure enough, it was, my name is so-and-so and I'm a rookie. My name is so-and-so and I'm a rookie. Then it got to the tall kid. And he said, my name is so-and-so. I am aging out of FLL. And if it wasn't for all these little people here that were willing to join my FLL team, I would never have been able to come to Worlds for FLL. And we were all like, "It's the best story ever." It's so good. But what they did was they utilized that 2 minutes to tell us something that maybe once we got into talking about robots and talking about projects, we never would have gotten to. So utilize that 2 minutes. Then you go into your project, whatever you need, Beth. People have used boards. People have walked in with prototypes. If you can build a prototype, I don't care if it's out of paper and cardboard, bring a prototype. Lots of teams build Lego prototypes. Doesn't need to be fancy, but bring a prototype. Bring something, right? Put it in front, close to the judges. Use it as part of your presentation. You can use technology in your presentation. It just cannot be your presentation. So we had a team at Worlds last year. They had an entire, I kid you not, projector. And they had practice. They knew where to plug it in. They knew where to shoot it on the wall because they have the same amount of time to set up as anyone else. They came in, boom, 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 boom. And they used it as a slideshow that they pointed to as part of their presentation. Do anything you want. Robot, you no longer have a table, right? But nothing says you can't run your robot. We're just not going to provide the table. So it's up to you. What do you want to do with that? Certainly, I would say tell the story of your robot. You can do it with an iPad if you want to. You can do it with boards. You can, whatever. You can do it with a binder where the judges are just flipping pages and you walk them through the photos. And I have seen kids come in with their robot and they say, we're going to show you our line correcting software. So they have a big piece of white cardboard with a black line of tape that they've put on there. They put their robot on the table, they push a button, and the robot follows the line. And as the robot is following the line right in front of the judges, they say, this is our line following program. And here's what it does. It takes a reading and it converts it into steering, and then it corrects the steering. And, you know, but blah, 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 blah. So the answer is whatever you need to communicate your story to the judges, do it. As long as it's not a YouTube video that you just push a button and it takes over. You don't want to do that. You can't do that.
So you said, right.
Can you say that again?
So you said the core value and the robot. You said the core value and the robot board is not required. Is a project board required? None of the boards are required anymore.
Nope.
Okay.
You can do anything you want. You can show up with nothing if you want to.
Thank you.
Just tell your story in whatever way you want. And there's lots of videos online that if you do, you know, FLL and you look at Superpowered or previous seasons, you can see what some of the other teams have done. Just know that, when was it, Rick? 3 years ago, we changed how the judging is done.
Yeah.
3 years. So if you go
I think
further
that's
back
3 years,
than
yeah.
that, it may look different. Because in the old days, we used to bring in an entire FLL table in the judging room. We just don't do that anymore. But like I said, run your robot. Bring multiple robots if you want to in judging.
So when you say no table, is there no table to put a board on?
Oh, yeah. No. I mean, there's no FLL 8x4 table
Oh.
with the mat and the pieces.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
No, we used to have an entire
Okay.
competition grade FLL table in the.
Okay.
It was a nightmare to set up for a state competition.
Yes. I can imagine. Okay. Thank you.
But no, we'll have tables, we'll have chairs. And again, coach your kids when they walk in. Do not be shy. Pull up whatever it is that you need. Don't stay 12 feet away from the judges, right? Come on up. Put your boards on a table, put them on the floor, put them on the table right in front of the judges so it's 6 inches from our faces, right? Whatever you need to do for them to tell their story. It is their 5 minutes of project, 5 minutes of robot, and 2 minutes at the beginning of the session. It's all theirs. I can give you one last tip if you want before we get off. And my last tip is about one of the most difficult things in judging is to coach the kids how to not talk on top of each other. So it's great that they're energetic, but if you have 5 kids, you want 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%. You want every child and to have the opportunity to speak a fair amount of time. So the way I've heard variations of this, but the way I taught my kids was they would line up, and whenever someone wanted to speak, they would take 1 step forward. And the rule was, when someone has stepped forward, everybody else, zip it. That person is speaking. When that person is done speaking, they take a step back and get back in line. If someone has something else to say, they'll take a step forward and say, I would like to add to what my teammate just said. And then they can add something. And when they're done, they step back. It's the idea of the talking stick, right? From Murphy Brown. I just dated myself from 30 years ago of Murphy Brown, right? The idea of the talking stick. So and I've seen all kinds of variations where they'll literally have something that they're holding, right? And only if you're holding the thing can you speak in judging. But it teaches them how to take turns and not interrupt each other. And then the rule was if 2 people step forward at the same time, whoever has spoken the least gets to talk. If you've talked a lot, step back, let someone else speak. And it's like magic. It teaches them how to not interrupt, and everybody has a chance to speak.
Thank you.
Hi, Elaine. I'm sorry. I'm like a newbie that's probably more lost than the person you talked to earlier. We haven't even gotten our shipment. Is there a time somebody could help just decide like a checklist of things that we absolutely need to do? We're trying to do like an in-house competition this year and not really go to the qualifiers and things.
Mm-hmm. So what I would recommend is what I did today with Megan would be to do a one-on-one, just the 2 of us, and we can go through the very sort of detailed specifics of what's going on with you. And we can share our screen. I don't want to share screens with anything to do with registration in because of private information on something like this. But it just tells me where it is you're at in your process. And then if you run into things like if your shipment you think is lost, like do you think you should have received it by now?
Probably not. It was just ordered last week.
Oh, okay. So you're good. So yeah, no, I'm happy to do that. Or the other option is unless we have other questions, I'm happy to go into that kind of detail. Anybody who wants to stick around, stick around. We'll get a little bit into registration and into youth protection and that kind of stuff. But at least I hope this is helpful in getting people moving forward in with their season. Is it so? If it's okay, I'll jump into this register because we have like 8 minutes left. If you want to hang around, hang around. If you've gotten enough out of this call, feel free to drop out. I'm going to stop the recording when we're done, and I will. This will probably be my test video on my new YouTube channel that we created today. So.
Elaine, I had a question, and I think you might have been talking about it when I first came in. But so the signing up for the qualifiers, that's like what we should be getting from you next week, like a email. Okay. Because I got an email that talked about like this week I have to do event preferencing and something and whatever, I was just like, uh-oh. So
Did
but I
that come
think
from me or did that come from first?
from first. So I'm
Okay.
wondering if that is meant for like, I don't know if I got an FRC email or the tech challenge email, or that's what it meant. So I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing the sign up
You haven't.
time or anything. Okay.
You haven't. When it happens, I'm going to let lots and lots of people know. I'll do it through an email. I'll might put it on like Facebook and things like that. I haven't really used Facebook all that much, but I can do that. But I'll get the word out. And we really
Okay.
don't anticipate to run out of events. And if we do, we will figure out how to get more spots. Rick and I don't do this so that we turn people away from qualifiers. Believe me, we will do everything in our power to make sure that there's a qualifier available for everybody.
If you got another school, I'm available that third week.
The third week, really? Oh, because we just need a place, right?
You just need a place.
On the 16th.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'll keep that because we'll have lots of field kits. We'll have tables. We'll probably have volunteers because there's only one event that weekend. So yeah, so the 2nd and the 9th is going to be really, really busy, but we may be able to do something on the 16th if we run out. So I don't want people to panic. I mean, do get your registrations in because it helps us plan, and the earlier we know if we need to go begging to tournament directors to find more room, right? It's easier for us to take a 24 team tournament and beg them to accept 30 teams than it is to do an entire new event. So you'll get an email, Daniel.
Okay.
I mean, I would love to get it out this week. It's ready.
So I just wanted to make sure because they were like, your preference selection window was like the 21st through the 28th. And I wanted to make sure I wasn't like missing something because I went into first to where you would like register and it was like no events or anything. But all my stuff is completed and I'm event ready or whatever they call it. So I was just making sure
Okay.
I wasn't missing something, but.
All right. Okay. Let me just make sure here we have a thank you heading out. Basis Phoenix, and we're really grateful for your help. Thank you, everyone. This is very helpful. Good. I'm glad. Okay. So if you're new and you don't have your stuff and you're wondering what to do, I had a call with somebody earlier this week that had this exact question. So I can share this much with you, which is my own dashboard. Hang on, let me make sure it doesn't kick me out. Okay, so if I share this, yeah, okay, there's a couple of teams on there, but yeah, okay. So do you guys see this? This is my first, do you see my first dashboard?
Yes.
Okay. So a couple of things you want to pay attention, to. So over here where it says hello, whoever you are, okay, you want to make sure that all of these things here are clear the way they are for me. Meaning that if you have acknowledgement forms that you haven't acknowledged, there'll be a red circle. If you have any type of youth protection screening that needs to be done, you'll have a red circle. We cannot put you in the competition software until you have 2 coaches. You don't need a team admin. A team admin is optional, but you need 2 lead coaches that have cleared all of this. So I will go, and if you want to know how to get there, right? So you have some teams, I have some test teams, and I have some real teams I've been added to temporarily. So when you click on this triangle here, and this pops down, you have your team options here. This red stuff, if you're an active team, this red stuff needs to go away. So for me, it's complaining about missing payment because this is a test team. It's not a real team, but definitely if you're a real team, you want that to be gone. See here, it says a lead coach is either missing or has incomplete data. That needs to be addressed for you to be competition ready. So you can either click on that, or you can go to over here where it says team contacts and roster. These are hot links. So I go to primary contacts over here. There's different ways you can get there, but this is my preferred way to get there. Your youth members will be here eventually, but what you're really concerned about is what's going on here under team leadership. So I am lead coach 1 for the test team. And you see how under me, the consent and release has a green check mark and meets youth protection policy has a green check mark. That's what we want. And this is something you can do in the interim as you're waiting for your supplies and your equipment. You can address this stuff and make sure that you have green check marks. Because I told him not to do it, Francisco, who's my student worker, right? If you have someone who isn't ready, you see what happens. You get the exclamation points over here and so on to say you have something that's not completed. And so this team, because we don't have 2 lead coaches, both with 2 green check marks, that team is not event ready. And so
Can I ask you, if we're not going to do a competition, I mean, do we need this to be completed?
If you go to a first sanctioned event, you don't need to worry about that.
Okay, so what do we need? Do we need the students in the ThinkScape, or do we just need the apps for the robots?
So you're just going to do, you pay the registration.
Yeah.
And you ordered a field kit to put on the table.
Yes, we don't have spike kits, but I think we have Mindstorms, old Mindstorms.
I love those. I think those are great. So you're completely fine with that. Quite wonderful. And I can actually coach that. I can't coach Spike because I'm not very knowledgeable on it, but I know EV3, the Mindstorms. You're completely fine with that. And then you can run your own event. And because it's not a first sanctioned event, none of this matters. So you can just do your own, basically you're just doing your own competition, aren't you?
Yeah, and so we don't really need any of these, the
No.
portals or anything except for like the app that they would use for the the EV thing, right?
Which is free. You can just download it.
Okay.
You can just download it from Lego Education. It's completely. If you have trouble with it, I keep a copy on my computer that I'm happy to give it to you. It's sometimes a little hard to find because the EV3 is discontinued. But if you have that problem, let me know. I've got a copy I can upload for you.
Okay, yeah, because my co-coach is having trouble with some of the forms. She's Canadian. I don't know. She's yeah, she's well, she was trying to do the consent and it kept saying there was an error, and I went to look at it with her and it's not letting her through. And then she hasn't even tried to get to the screening. I mean, we're all obviously all have our fingerprint clearance card and everything, but so we cannot worry so much about that right now and just get into the engineering notebook.
Yeah. So what'll happen is that if you were to change your mind and all of a sudden you decide, we are going to a qualifier, and I would say think about it, because it is such an experience for the kids to go, even if they think they're not ready. It's such an experience. Another thing you can do if you don't want to compete is to volunteer. The kids can come in and be runners, cuers, timers. Some of them take the referee sheets and take them to the time scorekeepers or something. Like, there's things that the kids can do. If you do something like that, the adults need to do their background check, but other than that, you don't. The kids, young kids, they don't have to do it.
Okay.
So that would be an option, but just so you can see what an event looks like.
Are there any in Tucson or just Phoenix?
Yeah, Teresa just left. The tournament director was on the call.
Okay.
Yeah, it is hang on, I gotta get myself back to challenge qualifiers. Tucson is Saturday, December 2nd. And Teresa Clement is the tournament director. And just great group of people down there running the event. So
Okay, so we could always just take kids that are interested to like volunteer.
absolutely.
Okay.
And generally it is inspiring for kids to see that in action. It gives them an idea of the possibilities, right? That's when they'll see something and they'll say, Coach Elaine, how do we do that?
Mhm.
You say, I don't know, but let's figure it out. Right? If they can do it, we can do it. We gotta let's need to figure it out. So it's just a good experience for them. So, but yeah, unless you go to a first sanctioned event, don't worry about all that stuff. In the meantime, are you going to do a project or are you just going to focus on the robot?
I think we're just gonna, I didn't know there was such a thing as the project. All I knew was the challenge kit hopefully comes with all the Lego pieces to build the mat.
Yep.
And then we were just gonna focus on that and the robot. And we have like 24 kids, so we're gonna split them up into four teams within our team.
Okay. Yeah.
And have them kind of do a mock competition against each other.
So here's a couple of other recommendations and then I'll do for you. Do you know where to find the building instructions for what comes in with your maths? On the
Is it in the engineering guidebook?
No. If you roll up a little bit in the chat at 4:53, I posted something called firstinspires.org resource library.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you go on that, and then you look for the, you go to what's called the chat. It's the same as, hang on, let me get back to it. It's right here. So let me share so I'll show you exactly where it is, right here. So this is you can see it here that it's the resource library for FLL Challenge and it's called Challenge Updates and Resources. So it is everything to do with the masterpiece FLL Challenge season. Okay. When you go down, this is a little bit confusing. They have something called building instructions and they have something called table building instructions.
Okay.
The table building instructions is literally the table. You go off to Home Depot and get your wood and your screws and you build the actual table. The building instructions is, if I am not mistaken, you kind of page down, and then they have all of these links down here. And they have, oh gosh, it's about in the middle, mission model building instructions. And if you click on that, here's all your building instructions. You're going to get 14 bags. Okay. And then you have nonverbal English and French. Should we do French for fun? I always do nonverbal. So here it is, right? So here's bag 1, which happens this year to be mission 1. And this is what you're building. And it's just your standard Lego building. Have you seen this before, these instructions?
I don't think I've seen them, no, for this. I've seen the ones in the engineering notebook, but this is for the actual mat. Would you like split up the missions and have different teams work on them? Is that what you would do?
So this stuff, you just give a bag to a student and you say, I'm giving you bag 1. You're the instructions for bag 1, build this, right?
Okay.
And then you take a second student and you say, here's bag 2, you build. It just so happens to be mission 2 this year. If you want a tip, you know how you schools get those big boxes with all those sleeves of paper in there?
Yeah.
The lid of that box flipped over makes a fantastic tray so that you don't end up with the kiddo who's building bag 1 getting mixed up with bag 2, but it contains the pieces so that things don't mix. But so here's a couple of tips I'll give you if you're relatively new to this. One is that whatever's in the top left corner is the piece or pieces that you need in order to complete this particular instruction. In this case, you're going to need 2 what looks like black beams. I call them beams. And you see how you have a 9 in a square? a 9 long. So if you count the holes, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 9 holes, not 11, not 7. It always comes in odd numbers, right? So this is what you want to teach your kids, to be very, very careful, because they can get very creative and make an 11 long beam fit somewhere where there should be 9. And all of a sudden your pieces are all askew and nothing's balancing out. And so you want to teach them about that. Then you've got, let me see if I can find an axle. See, this one is 11 long and it's white. But I want to show you, axles can get tricky. No axles in this. Ooh, how cool. Look at this dragon. It's so cool. Let me go back here. Let's go to bag 2. Here we go. This is step 5 of bag 2. Okay. This is what's called an axle. So if you look at it straight on, it's like a plus sign. And it's what's to force something to turn. It's impossible to know the length of an axle. The way that you do it is you put it against a beam, and then it is exactly the length of a certain number of holes on a beam. So this axle right here is 8. Can you see the 8 there? Is that
Yes.
Okay, so it's 8. So that axle, if you take a beam with all the little holes lined up and you put it next to it, it'll be the length of 8 holes on a beam.
Okay.
Same thing. You have black axles that are 4 long. You have black axles that are 8 long, and so on. And so the kids will sometimes end up with putting an axle the wrong length. And it's because they didn't pay attention to the measurement of the axle that's written right next to the piece in that step.
Okay.
Okay. Just trying to save you some of the headaches that I've had over the years. The other thing you'll see, and I just skipped it, we had it in bag 1, is let me find it. I saw it. Oh, right here. This little signal right here is to show you that they took, however things were aligned in the previous step, when they got in this step, they flipped it over. So they either flipped it over vertically or they flipped it over horizontally, but it got flipped somehow. That's why they have an arrow this way and they have an arrow this way. So it just brings your attention to the fact that you need to
Flip it. Okay.
flip it is just really important. And in the nonverbal, that's about it. Now, the other thing is under here, you have something called update. So I'm back in the resource library for challenge updates and resources for challenge. There's the overview is what's released on August 1st. Challenge updates, and I'll click on that, is anything that has been updated since August 1st, because once they release it to the world, you can imagine those kids start building. If there's anything wrong with anything, the description of a mission, the building instructions, any clarification on the project, this is where it goes. Typically gets released on Fridays, and there's very, very few this year. They have done an excellent job. But look on this one here, right? It says update 4, rolling camera rail construction. So this is one of the things that you're going to be building. It says all mission models should be built according to the building instructions, regardless of photos found within the rule game book. So there must be some kind of a mismatch somewhere. And so it says here, when it's built correctly, it should look like this.
Okay.
So, and that's, they had an update on August 1st and they had an update on August 22nd, and that's it.
Okay. So we can just focus on this and we don't have to worry about the spark and all that other things that you guys do for qualifiers.
The project, no.
Okay.
Yeah, you're basically judged on 3 things. I'll go back to the resource library. Just so, what time is it? Oh, we are way over time. where are the rubrics? Rubrics, Facebook. Judging, rubrics. Let's look at the color. So you have 3 pieces of paper here. You have a core values, that's kind of the, I don't know, salmon pink. We have innovation project, that's blue. And we have robot design, that's green, right? This is the rubric. So when the kids do go to a competition, at the end of the day, then it may be an electronic version of this, but they'll get this, right? And it'll tell them where they scored 1, 2, 3, or 4 on each one of these categories. So on core values, one of the things that judges will look at is, did the team explore new skills and ideas? And based on the judging and what we observe, the judges are going to give you either a 1, a 2, or a 3, meaning beginning, developing, and accomplished. And the 4 is the, can't believe what I just saw. And then we'll give a 4, and then we will explain in this box here why that was mind-blowing what we saw, right? They're extremely rare. Typically, you'll get a 1, a 2, or a 3. So core values right here, innovation, impact, inclusion, and all that. You're talking here about the robot. This is what we would look at in the robot. But the third part is what we discussed earlier in this call, is this innovation project.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. And thank you for taking extra time.
No problem. Any other questions? And if you do want a one-on-one at some point, just send me a message and we'll try to get you on. I just set up a Zoom like this and we answer your questions.